Plan is to renovate the newly designed sensory room, or which will be a newly designed sensory room. Some casework, flooring, a little bit of everything in there, and to get it dialed in for Stephanie. We have some outdoor basketball hoops that we have to replace because they no longer can hold a net. Refinish the new flooring in the new gym and the NPR, and that'll just be a every 2 years clear, scuff it up, apply another set of clear coat to it to try to protect the floor. Also, the building out there at the softball field in their athletic field is needed some TLC, so we're going to hit that as well. Probably repair some fascia, some siding, and paint to match. Moving on to JEH. Basically, Head Start building we need to get at least matching JEH, so we're going to get that painted up and the best we can. And also at the bottom of the list would be throw a coat of paint on the Eagle Creek building just to preserve, even though it's not in use. Yes, that's way at the bottom of the list, depending on what future plans are for that area. M&O building. Going to replace probably, 8 to a dozen sheets of corrugated roofing so we can keep the water off of all the inventory that we have. There's some damaged siding on the west side, and basically it'll be a few sheets here and there, repaint it to match the school, just the west side. And another thing that I put on there is really would like to get the contractors who volunteer to come out with a transit so we can put some drainage behind that building on the baseball field so it does not run in our shop and the office anymore. But that, again, that'll be down at the bottom of the list. And that's what we have for so far to start out. Questions? Comments, concerns?
Washington. I'm gonna say something. The new gym. Are we getting the front when you walk into the new gym that fixed in there?
You mean the 85 holes from the lacrosse sticks?
Yeah.
Yes, they have a coat of mud on them already. And
Awesome.
And the ceiling tiles have been replaced.
Awesome. Sorry. Any thought of putting door stops on the doors too?
Technically, we can't.
Oh. Why? Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Nothing else.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. You asked for it all.
I know.
She would.
Huh? Did I check something? No.
Oh, no, you're okay.
We're on M1.
Now we're on M1. Okay. Moving on to discussion action item M1. Consideration and acceptance of donations.
We made a decision to pull this off the consent calendar before you could pull it off the consent calendar. So you have the donations as I talk and try to find the page. Just to read in the record, thank you for the donations from Bob Cook and donations from, there are some anonymous donations, but we had one of the Cloverdale High School FFA. $2,000, Bob Cook, if I could back up, donated a large wooden shelving unit for the high school. Donation of $675.25 to Cloverdale High School class of 2024. Donation of $5,000 to Cloverdale High School, anonymous. Sonoma Section FFA donated $420 to Cloverdale High School. That's not Sonoma High School. That's just Sonoma Section, right?
Yeah, it's not a
They
section.
won't share money. And the
Black.
Black Baud Giving Fund donated $280 to Cloverdale High School. A lot of donations to Cloverdale High School. Thank those donors.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, can I get a motion to approve the donations?
I'll make a motion to approve the donations.
Okay, We have a motion by trustee Candelaria Orr to accept donations on M1. Do I have a second by trustee Addison. Our preferential is not here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one is absent. With that, we can move on to M2, consideration and possible approval of our 22-23 second interim report.
Good evening, I'm Patty Mills, CBO. And tonight I'm presenting the second interim report for our current fiscal year. Kathleen, can you move it to the presentation format, please? Thank you. So the second interim report for Cloverdale Unified is built on the 23-24 governor's budget presentation that the governor does annually in January. And at that time, the Department of Finance projects a COLA for the current year and the 2 subsequent years, which is listed there on the screen. The other factor we take in to consideration when projecting is the district's enrollment, which includes the non-public schools and also the county programs that our students are enrolled in. That number is 1305. We are projecting a 24 increase in the 2 subsequent years based on the new transitional kindergarten enrollment of 4-year-olds and capturing an additional each year as the birth date range expands. Projected funded ADA, currently this year we are allowed to use a 3 prior year average, so it's inflating, if you will, our ADA slightly to 1297.36. Next year, that average is still in place at 1256.17. And in that 3rd year, that rule is then drops off and we're no longer able to use it. So the calculator, based on our estimation of a 92% ADA to enrollment rate, would put us at 1242.55. So in a sense, that's where we'll actually be feeling the, not the push, but we'll actually be feeling the true percentage of our ADA. The unduplicated count is estimated based on current year and just moving that out to the 2 subsequent years. So we are still above the 60% low or unduplicated count. So we're at 63.33 and then slight decline in those out years. And please stop me if you have any questions along the way. I'd be more than happy to go into those. The other assumptions, there they are. The other assumptions are the unrestricted lottery and restricted. Those both come off of the school services dartboard. The STRS employer rates are remaining fixed at this time on the dartboard, and PERS rates are seeing a slight increase in the subsequent years. A few other pieces that factor in are, at second interim, are revenue adjustments. We always use the most recent calculator. Those, as a rule, come out when the governor does the proposals. They then recalculate the format based on that. The 23-24 and the 24-25 projections for the increased students are in the multi-year projection. The state and federal revenues are all budgeted at current level, and then one-time dollars that are moving kind of in and out based on their deadline dates or spend-by dates are also budgeted in current and the 2 subsequent years. Local revenue, we always budget that as we receive it, so it's not inflated in those out years at all. Salaries have been increased by step and column. We have settled negotiations through the 23-24 school year, reflecting the 10% increase in current and 8% increase next year. And then beginning in the 23-24, the certificated work calendar increases, and that continues to 186, and then 196 for those other positions such as high school counselor, dean, TOSA, speech and language. Health and welfare insurance cap is now consistent for all bargaining units, and based on FTE is listed there, 13,000 for employee, 15,000 employee plus one, and 17,000 for employee plus two or more. Books and supplies are increased by 1% where necessary, and what I mean by that is the one-time dollars as they're being spent, we'll actually see decreases in instructional materials that those dollars were spent on. Also services, same sort of effect. But we also have to kind of factor in somewhat of an inflation rate, so it's kind of twofold, if you will. 3% contribution to the routine restricted program also is included. So this is the effect that all of those assumptions have on the multi-year projection. You see current year as 22-23 in our beginning fund balance. We have revenues, and they are inflated. It contains a lot of one-time dollars that are actual fund balance, so they're received in this year and they get to carry forward. We have other one-time dollars that are received when they are spent, so that's what makes up that difference. Expenditures transfers out, you see at 23 million, so we actually see an operational gain at this point of 326,000, making our ending fund balance at 5.4 million. We meet our reserve for economic uncertainties. One area, and it's just strictly in budgeting at second interim, our board reserve, because it is the remaining amount of the ending fund balance less the restricted resources, less the 3%, is actually coming in at 6.5%. But a lot of that is due to the one-time dollars has truly inflated our expenditures. So by the time that we do our unaudited actuals and actually close our books, we will be well in line of that 7%. The restricted balance, you can see the restricted resource balance in that second to the bottom line there. That's where those one-time dollars are living, if you will, until they are spent. So they will remain restricted resources that can only be spent for their true intent. The undesignated unappropriated balance is actually a negative dollar, but that's just a one-time fund issue that will be cleared at closing. And the other two out years, you see a small amount remaining there. So what that means is a lot of our ending fund balance, because it is rather significant at 5.4 million, is comprised of those one-time dollars that have actual intent as to how they are spent. They are not undesignated. So then we move into that second year. We see again an actual operational gain of 152,000. Our ending fund balance at that point is 5.599 million. And then we go into our third year. And our third year, as you can recall from the ADA structure, is where we're actually living on the greater of prior or current back to the old way of calculating ADA. So we see a drop in the revenues there. However, the expenditures, we're still spending those final kind of dollars at that point. There will be a future slide that'll show you the dates of the spend by date, and hopefully that will help it make a little bit more sense than this slide reflects. But we are well into our 3% reserve in all 3 years, the 7% reserve, and then we have our restricted resource balance. And that is a lot of words. Do you have any questions on that? All right. This slide reflects to the best of our ability where we're at currently with our one-time funds. We're at approximately 3.4 million, and you see the various resources and the balances in those resources and the spend by date in that final column. We have a few that we're working diligently on. Right now, the expanded learning program, we have a sum that we need to spend by June 30th. And then the remaining 797,000 of that by next June 30th. And several that are September of '24, and we have one kind of piece in there that is a September of '23. So we'll be moving into that one after we successfully spend the expanded learning opportunity. So I do work constantly with the superintendent and with Nicole on those to make sure that we have the programming ready to go for those dollars as they expire. The other fund balances at this point are strictly projected, and it is, they will be moving throughout the remainder of this year and will be different at close. The first one is Fund 08. That is just strictly a bookkeeping fund, if you will, that accounts for the revenue and expenditures for all of the ASB accounts at all three sites. We also have the Child Development Fund, which is our preschool program. The cafeteria fund is in a very strange place this year. We actually have a fund balance in that. And a lot of that is the amount in which we're being reimbursed for student meals, even though they're all eating, and there is no cost to students. We're actually seeing a slightly higher reimbursement rate for those. But with food costs, we think that that will, 601,000 will be greatly reduced by the end of the year. Deferred Maintenance Fund, we're looking at 675,000. And we have, in all 3 years, the transfer out that is going into the track and field replacement of 100,000. So that gives us a balance right now of about 200,000 at the end of the year. Deferred maintenance is the other transfer that is still happening at 75,000. We will be seeing some expenditures this year, however, out of the deferred maintenance fund. Now that bond funds are being fully committed and utilized, we will be relying on those funds again to maintain buildings. Fund 17, 436,000. Of that, the technology replacement is 293,000, and the classroom furniture, 143,000. Those will also be utilized as we're purchasing furniture and technology. Bond fund, we're at 1.8, and we hope to have that encumbered and those final projects identified and completed. Fund 25, Capital Facilities Fund, those are the developer fees are accounted for there, 528,000 at this point. The County School Facilities Fund, Fund 35, has 530,000 in it, and that is from Prop 51 proceeds from prior bond projects that occurred at Jefferson. And then a very small amount, 117, in Fund 40, which is the Special Reserve Fund. And that's a lot to absorb in a short amount of time, but basically it is a snapshot of our district as of January 31st and a few weeks into February. We will continue throughout the year to prioritize. We're spending those final one-time dollars. Also, the sites are shoring up any of the supplies and or program needs that they have through the end of the year. We continue to evaluate everything that's going on. The anticipation this year with the extension of income tax being reported by citizens across the nation will actually, for California, skew what the May revise looks like. They're anticipating we won't have a realistic view because they won't know what sales tax, personal tax, they won't have all of those facts and figures that they need before them to do a really good analysis of it. So they're anticipating that governor's budget will probably be looking at another 45-day revision. It's just what happens when it's not really clear, and with the economy the way it is right now with interest rates. So that is something that we'll continue to watch. Average daily attendance is the other one. We really need to get a focus in our district, I feel, on attendance. It needs to be made a priority again so we can get back to where we were, which was about a 95% rate. We have definitely dipped since COVID, as other districts have, and not really rebounded back to that again. But that is
Do you know what the rate is?
Are we above 90?
We're right around 90, heading into 91%. So even in projecting those out years, the calculator's doing it now because of the three prior year average that we get to do. But in that third year, we're anticipating, we hope that it'll be at 92%. But we could actually, I think, see it beyond that if there was a definite push toward it. The implementation of transitional kindergarten will definitely have an effect on our district and all districts, addressing learning loss, staff vacancies, increased PERS rate, rising cost of utilities and supplies. Those are all factors moving forward that we'll be anticipating. Do you have any questions?
So that 5% is like $1 million.
The 5%?
ADA.
Yes, yeah. Super important.
Thanks, Patty.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, do I have a motion to approve the 22-23 second interim report?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by trustee Garrison and a second by trustee Addison to approve the 2022-23 second interim report. Preferential is not here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one is absent. And moving on to M3, consideration and possible approval of the 2023 summer school program and extended school year program.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a presentation. What you see before you is pretty much our tentative scaffolding for our summer school. We have a couple programs that will be running, the mariachi and the dance camp, as well as our academic program. And we are still working with Boys and Girls Club about how their piece will look. I just had a meeting with them today, so I can update you from what you're presenting in the packet. They are looking at providing services for a total of 7 weeks for up to 200 students between our TK through our 8th grade. And that would be a 9-hour day, as is required by our Expanded Learning Opportunities Program requirements. And so we are negotiating what that would look like price-wise, and we'll be bringing you an MOU soon for that piece. And the only other large change from how we've done things in the past is we're looking at that the principal that we hire for the academic piece would also help doing some of the pre-work, like hiring the teachers and running those processes and helping coordinate the program so that when they step on campus as the principal, they know what's going on in food services, what's going on with maintenance and operations. So they were really a player in those talks prior to the school year. So we'll be expanding their salary in order to compensate for that. And that's the big pieces that we're looking at changing. Are there any questions for me?
Does anyone else have any questions?
We also, I'll add, see that there probably is a greater need for our extended school year program. So we're looking at hiring more teachers this year to meet that need as well.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Is there any?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Garrison, And a motion by second by trustee Addison to approve the 2023 summer school program and extended school year program. Preferential is not here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one is absent. And moving on to future agenda items.
Future agenda items are master planning. We have the Alexander Valley Healthcare Student Concerns, TK and K Admission Board Policy, and Independent Study Board Policy. And,
I have nothing else
yeah, that's it.
to add. Anything for future agenda items? No? Okay. All right, moving on to our future board meeting dates. We will be back here next Wednesday, March 15th at 2023 at 6 p.m. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:17?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:17 or 18.
Okay, 18. Motion by trustee Candelaria Orr. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Mendoza Torres. Preferential is not here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one is absent.